Welcome to the Unit Economics Podcast. I'm Josh Stavinsky. On today's episode, I sit down with Sara Victorio, founder of Hotel, a handmade ceramic studio based in Portland, Oregon. We talk about how Sara built a one-person business that's consistently selling out products within minutes of listing, why she uses a sales model centered around drops rather than relying on pre-orders, and how design restraint, pricing discipline, and production choices shape what Hotel can sustainably produce. Sara also reflects on how she's built a business that supports the life she actually wants to live, and to me, that might be the most remarkable part of the story. This was a thoughtful, transparent look at what it takes to build a durable, design-driven physical goods business from scratch. I learned so much during my conversation with Sara, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Sara, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. If you wouldn't mind just starting with a brief background on yourself, that would be great.
Sure. So I am Sara Victorio. I am the owner and operator of Hotel, which is a handmade ceramic studio based in Portland, Oregon. We started in 2020. I mean me, and been doing it ever since.
What led you to start Hotel? How long have you been doing ceramics for, and what led you to actually starting a studio and producing goods that are actually sold?
In 2017, I was in college. I just needed like an outlet. I was doing like really theory heavy work in school and no creative anything. So did that as kind of just like a hobby, just a way to blow off steam, and ended up getting a job through that studio. I ended up working for another potter, being her studio assistant. It was called Mimi Ceramics, and I basically like learned how to do everything. It was just us two. So basically she was on the same trajectory just like a few years before me, of being self-taught, running a business by yourself. And in the midst of being in that job, the pandemic hit, and I actually was finishing up my bachelor's degree, coming into a non-existent job market. I still had that job, but it was really part-time. And in the pandemic, I just wanted to get some energy out. I was stuck at home. So once things started opening up a little bit, I got a membership to a community ceramic studio where you could have, 24-hour access. And I just was there every day, 10 hours a day, every day. Just there was nothing to do. So I just ended up making way too much to keep for myself. And then friends were starting to kind of ask for, oh, can you make me this specific type of cup? Or like, I want, a set of bowls. And I kind of decided then, if I'm going to do anything like this, I kind of want to just like, flesh it out, have like a bit of a brand first, and then it can kind of grow into that. So I just posted a bunch of photos that I took in my apartment of just random things that I made. And I said, like, if anyone wants to buy any of these things, just DM me. And it honestly really took off from there. I just really expected it to be like just friends.
How many pieces did you launch with to start? And did you
Too
find that it was a
many.
lot of strangers? Okay, so too many. Did you find a lot of strangers sort of organically finding your listing?
Sort of. So like before that, it was kind of dabbling in like content creation, like influencer marketing. I had made a lot of friends on the internet through that who were doing the same thing. And once I launched a new Instagram account, all of my internet friends kind of like rallied behind me. And so I basically got like this like influencer marketing for free. I really do credit it to that, to just kind of like jumpstart things, because I already had kind of like these like small-ish audiences that were really dedicated. So that's kind of how that started.
Did you have the brand and the design philosophy in place from the start, or did that grow over the last several years? Did you start as Hotel, or did that come later? And did your sort of chunky, cylindrical design language evolve over time, or did you just jump into it?
That was one of the first things that I made. And it just ended up being the thing that stuck. When I was joining the studio and kind of ideating on like what I would want to put out there, that was the main thing that I wanted. The chunky handled mug. Like I said, I made way too much stuff to begin with. I thought you really need like a line that was like really cohesive. But I do feel really confident with I feel like my design still really has like a North Star of like, it's just my taste, and that's another thing that I take really seriously in my business and my brand is I don't do anything that I don't want to do. I don't put out anything that I'm not proud of. So I feel like my design for the brand or just my vision for visually what the brand is pretty strong.
How do you determine which colors, which designs to keep and which to part ways with as you grow the company? I think this is like a really interesting aspect of a lot of different businesses, and the same can be true. You can think of like introducing a new flavor if you're putting out ice cream, for example. I'm curious about how you think about the introduction of new products, of new colors, of new designs.
I feel like I've said this a lot to friends if I'm like lamenting about things, but it's always the colors that I'm so excited about and I love so much that don't sell. I love all the colors that I put out, but I try to give it some time. I usually try to have them around for like at least a year and just see. Sales don't necessarily drop off like super quickly in that way, or like I get no orders for the colors. Like it's usually like a broad array of what people choose, which can be hard because I love color. I feel like that's one of the main things about Hotel is that like it's very colorful and I end up having so many options that I don't want to get rid of, but I do have to make some hard decisions like that. And then also just the unpredictability of ceramics and misfires with the kiln rather. Some glazes just like don't work out or like they work for a little bit and then something changes that I can't really put my finger on, and testing would take a really long time to figure out what that is. So it's just maybe I'll put that on the back burner for now, revisit it later. So all those things go into how I decide.
I really want to get into the concept of drops and how you how you think about selling and distributing the products that you make. So to start for let's say my dad, can you explain what a drop is?
So a drop would be, for me, would be I open the web shop at a certain time. Everything on there is already made, ready to go. It's all packed up, and you pick what you want, and there are set numbers of each color, respectively. As soon as you buy it, a few days later, it's going to get shipped out to you, like as soon as possible. Otherwise, I have done this before, a pre order situation where things are made to order. You get to pick, and there's no cap on anything, on any color or style. It's really driven by what the customer wants. But I've run into quite a few issues with that. As ceramics is so unpredictable, I end up, taking way more time than like I promised, and I end up feeling like I let down a customer. So I like to put out only what I have. And that's worked really well for me.
Yeah, it seems like you sort of started with a drop, maybe unintentionally when you started the company. I guess at what point did it crystallize for you that like this is the technique you'd be using? Because it's a really I mean, you're not the only one using the strategy, right? Like it creates a lot of demand for the product. I was trying to buy one of your mugs, I don't know, a month or two ago, and I mean, they just sell out almost immediately. I was eyeing multiple different colors and I could not get either of them. So I guess at what point did you realize, oh, there's something to this? There's like a scarcity that this creates. And how have you maybe seen that show up in the numbers, if you can speak to that too?
Wow. It's so multifaceted. Like, there's just so many pros and cons. I mean, when it really clicked for me was maybe like a couple years ago, maybe even last year. Last year, I really felt confident that I could sell out things consistently. And that's a good thing for me, obviously, but it does leave the customer feeling frustrated a lot of the time. And I had been on the other side of that recently, just like buying something and it just sold out immediately. And I was like, that is so annoying. So I really do understand the frustration. However, it helps me a lot just to like not overwork myself, put out the things that I only have, and that's how I honestly keep the customer satisfaction is like you're getting exactly what you're ordering in the time frame that is promised. But for a while, obviously I started during the pandemic and that was like a really booming time. People were at home, they wanted to buy things for their house. I was told a lot of people wanted to like, have something in their Zoom window that was pretty. And so a few years after that, maybe in 2022, 2023, it was kind of there was like a big lull. People were
Interesting.
not getting money from the government. People were really focusing back on like, we're, back to normal life. We don't have the money for these frivolous cups, like it's just not in the budget, and people weren't traveling, and it felt very much more insular, and like I was really like concerned, obviously. So in the past year or two, it's been way more steady, but I did pre-orders before. And in that time where I was like, well, I might need to have some money up front, because with a drops situation, I'm fronting everything up front and hoping that people come and buy it to kind of recoup the money. But with a pre-order situation, that's great for the front end to like get the money first, then make stuff. But what I found was that it was just too accessible. And it makes sense that people are like, it will be there, so I don't have to buy it right now. But I think it does kind of take away a bit of like the magic of it's a handmade product. Every single piece I am in charge of like making. I handle everything. I, have brought it to life. And I do think there is like something really special about that like scarcity of it. But of course it doesn't come without like frustrated customers, which is a give and take. So I really enjoyed the drop just for my own sanity.
Yeah.
Because I really strive to have like the best product, the best customer service. Like this is just me. So I want to represent myself in a really good light and want people to feel satisfied. And not for nothing, it's expensive. Like to spend $70 on a mug, like that's a pretty penny. And if I didn't know all the things that went into it, I would be like, I'm not paying for that. Like that's crazy. So that's like a big concern for me, is like, people pay money for this. They deserve, to be cared for, and like things to be up to par and like up to their standards.
Yeah, you teed up my next question perfectly, which was how did you land on your price points? How has the pricing strategy maybe evolved over time? Because I personally feel that $70 is a lot to spend on a mug, but I think when you consider the labor and the love that go into the product, and when you think about the fact that it's kind of an art piece, right? You can really, I mean, at least for me, I can justify the price, but I'm curious about how you landed on that figure. And if that's changed over time. I assume the main driver of the cost is really labor, but if you've got any other insight there that you can share, that would be great too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the price I started really just undercharging for my work. When I first started, I was at like $32 for a mug, which is like less than half than what it is currently. And I was really going off of I really admired, like, Portland is a very craft driven town. So like before I started, I was really looking up to like these small potters that were just selling at markets and stuff, and following them on Instagram. And that's what they were selling things for. But that was in 2016. This is now 2020. And I had friends who were potters that were of that kind of generation being like, you need to raise your prices. This is ridiculous. This is too cheap for the amount of work you're putting into it. And I felt every time I raised the price, I just felt so embarrassed. Like I was like, I'm sorry I have to do this. Like it's going to have to be $50 now. And I actually worked a market where that kind of happened. I had just raised my prices, and the first customer I had was like an older man, and I told him the price, and he basically just like filleted me and was like, this is not worth that. You're crazy. And I just took it on the chin. It was already what I was feeling. I was really embarrassed by like $60 for a mug. Like that's ridiculous. And that same event, another person asked me, how much does this cost? And I said, it's 60. I just raised the price. Like, and I was really feeling insecure about it. And he was like, exactly. That's like what it should be, like good for you that you are charging what it's worth. And it's probably worth more. And that really gave me the confidence to be like, this is what it's worth. You don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
And those who want to buy it will pay that.
Right.
And also, this is something that we can get into like in more depth, but 2 years ago now, I changed my whole process. I was originally wheel throwing everything, which is very labor intensive. I can't believe I even made the amount of things that I did per drop, but I changed to slip cast molds in 2024.
Can you also just explain what the slip cast process looks like?
Sure. So it is a plaster mold of the vessel, and you, instead of using clay, like regular clay, you use liquid clay, pour it in, and the plaster kind of sucks out the moisture and creates a coating on the interior of the mold. After a certain amount of time, you pour out the excess liquid clay and you're left with a vessel. It's a process that factories use, but it is also really applicable in like a smaller scale, like I'm doing, to have like consistent product. Just to like bring it back to pricing, once I changed to that, it became so much more efficient, and the price every year I was having to like up the price, and I didn't like to do that because I don't want to alienate a demographic of my customers. I still want to keep it like relatively accessible. And once I switched over to slip casting, the price made so much more sense for me, to the point where I didn't need to every year increase the price, or every 6 months, increase the price.
And why is that?
Why is it better? Like,
Why is it that why is it that you don't need to increase the prices so frequently, let's say, as a result of switching your method?
yeah, I think before, when I was wheel throwing, I
Yeah.
was already like in a deficit. I was already like, this is not, I wish I could charge $100 for this, for the amount of labor I'm putting in. But for slip casting, it does not, it's not easy. It is maybe like more efficient, but it comes with its own set of challenges. And with the slip casting, when I pour that clay in, I can walk away for like 20 minutes and do something else. And it freed up a ton of time for me.
Interesting. Yeah. Have you increased the size of your drops as a result of changing the method that you
Yes.
use? Yeah.
Yeah. So I originally, I mean, I would try to aim for maybe like 100 pieces per drop, but that was also like, who knows how long that's going to take me? That could be like, I was really inconsistent with my drops because things were maybe like a little slower, was having to throw everything on the wheel. So just having to babysit pieces more, losing way more just from failures in the kiln. So I was maybe doing like every 2.5 to 3 months a drop. So it was really inconsistent and infrequent. So now, when I started slip casting, then I kind of graduated to like around 100 units per month. And I was really able to be consistent with that. Every month I did a drop, because I had a set schedule that I could follow that was really consistent with how the molds behaved. And now I've increased to maybe around 150, 160.
Yeah. So substantial. That's a huge increase.
Yeah.
50 to 60%, like pretty easy math.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting. You've created this sort of like scarcity dynamic, but you clearly care a lot about the community, and you don't seem to be motivated to like price gouge people, right? Like there is a world in which you could raise prices to $150 a mug and you could just say this is a luxury good and create a sort of luxury brand, but you're clearly not interested in doing that.
Yeah. That's just not me. I feel like I'm a pretty like no frills kind of person. And I'm also like, I didn't grow up with money. I don't have really, and I'm not like, in like a strong financial position right now. And I think people still deserve like fun things.
Yeah.
And a lot of my demographic is like quite young. So, asking like a 20 something to spend $100 on a mug is like, I might have done that, on a whim, very irresponsibly, but like I really get a lot of repeat customers, and keeping that sustainable is really important to me, and having a strong brand, or a strong, I don't know, like product is really important to me, that keeps people coming back. I've had like a lot of customers come to me just saying like, I got my 10th mug, like it's like a collectible.
Yeah.
And that's another one of my like kind of north stars of the brand, is like I want a piece that I create to be able to withstand the test of time. I don't want to like give into trends really easily, and like I don't look very like laterally. at what other people are doing. I like can definitely appreciate the other avenues people are going into, but like, and I even tried before when I first released a bunch of items trying to have like so many things, and the mug was just the one thing people wanted. So that was really like a point for me to be like, you need to like listen to your audience. The mug is what's going to get people in the door, and it keeps being like the bestseller. Even I mean, I do like still some other like, matcha bowls or like small like seasonal things, but the mug is just like it's a really strong product design wise, and just functionality is like very important. And it's like fun still. So that's like one thing that I really love about making stuff is that I get to make everyday things like pretty and fun and but still functional. So I really like that intersection for my work.
Yeah, absolutely. On the topic of repeat customers, I ask most of my guests this question. Do you have a sense of roughly what your rate of repeat customers is?
Maybe not like a hard number, at least like 40% of the maybe 50% of the customers each drop, I can
Yeah.
recognize their name, which is really, I mean, that's crazy to me that, and
Yeah.
then, yeah, I get to see them, on like, they'll post a story and I'm like, wait, I know that name. And it feels really community forward, which I've done through kind of like Substack and
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about Substack. I think that's a really interesting strategy. It honestly, I'm not even sure you're even thinking about it in that way, sort of strategically. It feels just like a vehicle for you to communicate with your fans, with your customers. When did you start the Substack and for what purpose? Because it's not just business related, right? There's some personal writing
no.
on there as well.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to just hear more about it, but also to know if there are any, maybe not quantifiable, but any benefits to the business that you can speak to that have come as a result of starting and maintaining a Substack. Because I think you have like 2,000 subscribers now at this point, if that's correct.
Yeah, I think it's around that. So I started just like a newsletter. It wasn't on Substack, but it was on just like my email, like a email list. I mean, it was just a ton of stuff with like meta, like changing, like Instagram was like now meta. And I was really, I mean, I had never been super great at Instagram. It felt a little like, I don't know, it just felt a little weird, not me to like be on Instagram and like, hawking my wares. I just I felt it was just really impersonal. And as we've covered, like this is just a soul like venture. Just I'm the only person here. So it felt silly to like, I don't know, pretend like I was like this giant company of like, we do this, we do that. And I it's just like, let me talk in first person. Like, let's not make this weird. But I felt really like scared for the future of my business because I did start on Instagram and like I did most of my like marketing, I guess, or like outreach was through Instagram. So I kind of wanted to get away from that, and I started doing a newsletter just to be like, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm a TV show I'm liking. I really like those sort of like, these are my favorite
Hmm.
things this month. And it was also a great way to kind of explain things that's going on in the studio or explain how the drop is going to work, like, and it was just one place for people to like, it's hard on Instagram to like do long form stuff. Like this was maybe in 2023 or maybe even 2022 when I started the newsletter, and I wanted just like an incentive for people to like kind of find me there instead of Instagram and like relying on me posting on Instagram to like remind them a drop is coming. So I wanted like kind of a push notification, like here's the drop, but to preface that kind of drop is like to kind of create the buzz. So I would do, and I still do this to this day, one like kind of newsletter, long form, whatever I want to talk about. It's usually just what I'm feeling at the time. And I'll have details about the upcoming drop that's coming, usually posted on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and then Fridays, Saturday, we'll do a drop. So it kind of keeps it fresh in people's minds. And then on the drop day, it's like you get a push notification. It's live, like go get it. And to incentivize that, I make like an early access thing for available to, subscribers, where I'm like, if you can stand to read just nonsense from me, then like you can get in a little bit early. And it has created a really strong base of customers for me. And I feel like I'm kind of holding people hostage. Like, you don't have to read this, but this is where you will find it. And I just moved over to Substack recently just because it was like way more streamlined and it made a lot of sense. And it's kind of more like a social media. It's kind of similar to Instagram in that way where it's not, you can access it without, putting your email in. But I've really am surprised how dedicated people have become through that. And yeah, it's been really fruitful, I think, especially not having to rely on Instagram so much for getting business.
Yeah. It feels like the perfect mechanism for keeping the sort of flywheel spinning that you've created. I'm curious how you think about growing Hotel from here. I'm not sure to what degree you're motivated to scale quickly or to scale at all. Are you content with the current iteration of Hotel and the amount of goods you're selling, or do you have ambition to double, triple, quadruple the output over time? And if so, how do you even go about doing that when you are a one person show? Do you want to hire help? Do you want to grow this company, to grow the brand? Or is this the sweet spot and you're just content with exactly what you've built?
Yeah, I will never say never. However, I am very, very happy with what this is right now and like how I operate. I've always said this from the beginning is like, I don't want an empire. I mean, I started it just to like kind of fulfill this hobby and like make rent. I mean, I have like a few like personal financial goals, but like I'm like a renter. Like I want like some financial independence. I actually went through a phase kind of early on in the business where I was like, do I need to move to New York? Should I be like growing and like, do I need to be where like, culture happens? And I visited New York just kind of with the mindset of like, could I live here? And I had to really take a hard look at what I wanted out of just life in general. As much as I love doing this and like, it's just like, I would not want to do anything else. Like, I mean, I'd like love to not work. Like, it's not like the dream to be like working all the time. And I really realized like New York is not for me. And I love Portland. I just love the laid back kind of way here. And I was born and raised in the Bay Area and it is impossible to live there. Financially is just crazy. So Portland is very cheap compared to there. And I just was like, you know what? The things I like are I like, having a house. I love like sitting in the backyard. I like hanging out with my friends, just like leisurely things. So that was kind of always my goal. Whatever life I wanted to live, I wanted the business to kind of like match that. And I
Hmm.
feel like I'm really balancing that incredibly well right now. And I can see like I don't wanna hold it too tightly, totally, like, accepting of the fact that this is not forever, but in that same way, I am really protective over it. So, it's like, if it's not feeling fun, why do it? I want it to feel really, really sustainable to do it for as long as I can, and that also means, like, switching to slipcasting. Like, I was really kind of hesitant to do that. I didn't really want to do it. I was sort of forced to in a way. I injured my wrist in 2024 and I could barely move it actually. So I was like, either you heal it or you have surgery, later down the line if you keep going at this pace. And I just had to like switch gears. So I feel very like happy and like content with what it is right now. And as far as like hiring people or like growing, I'm like pretty reluctant to hire anyone. Maybe for like the things I like really like don't like admin stuff, but there is something really special to me and like makes me feel really proud that like I'm doing this all by myself and I can make a life that I enjoy living without like, killing myself over work and like overworking myself. This is I think going into my third year where I'm working only 4 days a week. And that was really important to me.
Yeah, that's amazing.
When I started, when I was implementing that, I was like, I don't want to work 5 days a week. And like, I sort of have that power to like choose. And thankfully, like I had the customer support to like back that up and like people buying things to back that up. But that's been like a huge game changer. And so everything with the business has always been like, how do I like align with this with the life that I want?
Yeah.
Again, like I said before, like I don't really like need all the frills of, luxury things. So keeping it really simple and just having enough money, like, making enough money to feel comfortable living, that's huge. And that's like really what I can only ask for right now. On the like hiring side, I'm kind of like, it's like a big responsibility to have an employee. I mean, as someone who grew up with small business and only worked for small businesses, that is like a very big responsibility that like I don't know if I could feel comfortable like being in charge of like someone's livelihood. And also I just think like I have like high standards. It would probably be like very annoying. So best to just keep it contained to me.
Yeah. It's an incredible point to be at. I think that's just such a refreshing mindset. There's just so many companies growing because they have to grow to stay alive. And I think the idea of slow, steady, sustainable growth as a means to an end that is, as you've described, a lifestyle that you want is like really an incredible thing. So I'm very happy for you.
Oh, thank you.
Who do you look to for inspiration? Are there any brands or any other, any artists that you feel particularly inspired by?
I really like clay. They're based out of New Zealand. Mainly their thing is like pillows. And I am so in love with the work of Dina No. She's based here in Portland. She's just like a friend of mine now. But I've admired her work for years before I even started. Who else? I feel like I wrote some of them down because I was gonna forget. Oh, yeah, Sarah Burns is in New York, and she runs a storefront called Old Jewelry, but she also designs furniture. And that's actually something, going back to your previous question of like, how do you see it growing, is like, I would love to kind of dabble into like other mediums for some sort of like home design. That's what I wanted to be as a kid. I wanted to be an interior designer. And obviously, like ceramics is like a part of that in a way. But I'm really interested in furniture design and like woodworking. And yeah, I find that really inspiring to like make something that like, I don't know, like you sit on, like you lay down on that. Like it's like a very substantial piece in your house. So I'm really interested in that too. I've dabbled a little bit in like lighting, like lamp making, which has been really a fun challenge, still in line with like functional stuff, which I love, but has like a really strong design element. So yeah, I love Sarah Burns' work. I mean, I think she did a show maybe last year of just like a bunch of furniture she designed, and it was just incredible how imaginative she was with it while also it being functional. I've never seen pieces like that before.
What's been the biggest surprise since launching Hotel?
Definitely, like, the most surprising thing has just been, like, the community that I've built or just the customers that I have. They are, like, the sweetest people, and, I mean, it's funny to think about, but, like, it's so mind-boggling to me that people are buying it who aren't, like, my friend, you know? Like, I'm just like, "Oh, you don't even know me and you want this," and
Yeah,
I actually recently made, like, merch. I made some, like, embroidered baseball caps.
I did see that. I did see that. I did want one. I wear a lot of hats, and I did want one, and I was unable to get one. Yeah,
I would be happy to send you one.
that was not my intent, but the thank you. That's very
No,
kind.
I'm like, I was like, get it out there, like, as much as possible, and, like, I had friends telling me that they see people on the street wearing them, and they're like, "Do you know Sarah?" And they're like, "Who? No, I don't know who that is," and I think it's just very, again, like, surprising to, build something and, like, it is my everything, and I think on Substack, I think maybe it is more like so me, but on Instagram, it seems like a larger company than it is. And that's just like what people know of it. So it's just, that is surprising to me. Yeah, I just am continuously surprised at like, oh my God, how many mugs of mine do you have? Like, it is so wild to me.
Yeah.
Extremely flattering though. So.
Yeah, there's something so rewarding I've learned this since starting the show. There's just like something so deeply rewarding about someone who isn't your partner, family, friends telling you, oh, this is high quality, showing you that by purchasing it or
Mhm.
telling you. Yeah, it's such a rewarding feeling. So I can completely empathize.
Mhm.
I think we have time for one more question.
Okay.
What's something that you've changed your mind about since starting Hotel?
Oh boy. So much stuff, but we can keep it to like one thing. It's just like keeping like expectations low or just being adaptable to change. I feel like when I started, I had a really clear vision of what I wanted it to be and how I would get there, and did not account for all of the random things that are going to come up that are going to get in the way of that. For example, my wrist. I'm sure like everyone's like so fed up with me talking about this, but it was really crazy to be faced with so much uncertainty around the
Yeah.
business of
That's
like,
like that's your livelihood, right? That's a
yeah,
huge deal.
using my wrist is like key to making the product. And I had a lot of like ego about slip casting. I was really reluctant to do it because, and that's kind of why I injured myself, because I was pushing myself so hard because I was like, I'm not going there. I'm not branching out into that because that's not me. And I had a lot of ego about like, it's not as handmade, or it's, I'm not a factory. And I really had to come to terms with the fact that it is handmade. It is it's not easy. Maybe it's like just a different way of getting to the final point, but it has its own set of like problems that can arise, and there's so much troubleshooting with it. So, do I want to just like keep going the way I'm going and eventually, develop carpal tunnel and need surgery, and then I'm not going to be able to do this, for much longer after that? Or do I want to like put my pride aside and like venture into this new uncharted territory? And it turns out that it was like the best thing that I could have done, and was actually like the key to me feeling like it balanced out, like we were saying earlier, with lifestyle versus like work versus play, And so that has been a really big lesson for me of like, don't hold it too tightly and be adaptable to change. And that is like what ceramics is like release any expectation of what it's going to be or how many units you're going to have, because things can go wrong so quickly. And for some small reason that is going to take you forever to figure out. So yeah, being adaptable has been something that has been a big lesson for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've heard from a number of founders at this point the same thing, and it's true across every single industry. It's such an important lesson to learn. So, yeah, I appreciate you sharing. Sara, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. If you want to tell listeners where they can find your products, please feel free to do so.
Sure. So I have my website, which is hotelceramics.com. I am also on Substack, where you can find all info about future drops and listen to whatever I want to talk about that month. And it's called The Hotel Lobby. And my Instagram is Hotel Ceramics.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you can stay up to date with the latest episodes. Thanks for listening.